So Bitcoin has seen a bit more volatility over the last couple of days. Yesterday, we did see a bit of a push to the upside. And as we can kind of see right here, we are currently getting rejected there on the 200 hourly EMA. This is $42,679. You can see that we did find this area of resistance on this 200 EMA for the last couple of surges to the upside. And from here, we have had significant pulls to the downside. We did move down lower than the range that I was hoping would hold. We had a double bottom, short rally up, and then moved down. The range that we were hoping to hold was 41,688 to 42,113. However, we have moved down a little bit deeper, setting a new lower low just down here as we had the Bitcoin options expiring. So max pain for the bulls there. So our new low comes in at $41,300. If I zoom out of here just a little bit, you can kind of see how our trend line here is still looking like we have further to go to the downside. Now we can of course adjust this so we can actually take stock of the two current existing swing lows down here. So if I actually go ahead and snap that right on there, you can kind of see in here, this actually gets us more in parallel. So if we had a parallel channel to kind of show you and depict this a little bit easier, and let me go ahead and just snap this parallel channel to here and then bring this down just a little bit. And if I pull this across, you can kind of see right in here. And what I'll do is I will remove the two trend lines from here and here. You can see how we have the two touch points at the top and the two touch points at the bottom. This parallel channel is to the downside, so lower highs, lower lows. This, in my opinion, will have a break to the upside. I just don't think we are there yet. I would expect us still to push down a little bit further, retesting some of these existing lows once again before we do have that breakout situation. Okay, so on our 1 hour time frame, we are still looking rather bearish. Let's throw some smart money concepts in the mix here. So smart money concepts is showing us with a change of characterization into a bearish state of play just over here. This happened when we closed a candle down lower than our previous swing low on the 26th of December. We closed this yesterday on the 30th of December at 8 a.m. UTC. And that basically has meant that we changed from this bullish structure that you see over this side into a bearish structure. Now, it's worth noting that we were in a bearish structure over here, and essentially all of this is one big sideways ranging market at the moment, and we will be looking at bigger moves to play here. But for now, this characteristic change is telling us that we are likely to, unfortunately, see further to the downside. Now, our rejection on that 200 EMA was also our rejection on our equilibrium. Basically, that equilibrium is 50% between the premium and the discounted ranges, and is normally where you find support of resistance as well. Happens to coincide with the 200 EMA, and here we can see progression to the downside. Ultimately, I would expect us to move on down a little bit further before we get that next big run to the upside. So for Bitcoin on the 1 hour time frame, yeah, it's not looking overly great at this point in time. I would expect probably another day, half a day maybe, of corrections for BTC before we start rallying up for the yearly close. Now, I would expect us to have a bit of a run towards the end of today, as I think the bulls are likely to win at the yearly close position. Let's go ahead and take our stochastics off and throw on our divergence indicator here. You can see that we had bullish divergence just as we came down into this low here, this one being at 9 a.m. Yesterday morning, and we got this nice run to the upside. This is a pretty good sign for things to come. So we can see here we have rallied up quite nicely, but it has been a very corrective pattern to this point. So I am still expecting further to the downside to correct that out. And volume wise, yeah, volumes are still really, really low as we pushed up here. Volumes were increasing as price was dropping. Let's show you kind of what that looks like from where we peaked up here to here. You see volumes were increasing as price dropped down, and whereas prices pushed back up, volumes have decreased. Okay, so we know that that's a bit of a divergence. It's a weaker move to the upside than a stronger move to the downside. Appetite is to sell, not to buy. So that's looking quite interesting. Momentum wise, we're almost up in this overbought range. I would still expect us to retest $41,300 levels on the 1 hour time frame. So let's take this up into the daily, right? The daily time frame shows us with a nice oversold stochastic RSI. As you can see here, really testing that parallel channel that we had drawn here. Ultimately, we'll have to move this because we can't move the top line. We can't adjust the angle of this to try to make it fit. We could, but it wouldn't be the right thing to do. Here you see we kind of miss out on those top ranges there. So we either have to extend the top end or extend the bottom end to make this a parallel channel. So for now, I'm just going to actually remove the parallel channel from our daily time frame. And what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw some trend lines instead. I'm going to draw those on like so. Okay, so we have higher highs and higher lows. This will unfortunately lead to us to having a break to the downside, but it does mean that we might see a surge upwards first. I kind of spoke about this yesterday in the kind of walk and talk video that I did last night. So that's coming in at what? About 12 hours ago. And yeah, for the most part, my expectations here are to see a bit of a surge upwards, personally targeting out that kind of $48,000 to $52,000 level. That's this one right up here. If I can actually draw on the chart, that's this range right here. And the reason for that is that this is an interesting zone on our weekly time frame, and I think we have the momentum to take us up there. So that's going to be where I think we're going to start seeing a big surge in early 2024 up into this range, liquidating all the people who are shorting just before, of course, we actually short the market and go deeper. So for now, on our daily time frame here, I do expect us to kind of retest that low trend line a little bit more. I don't think we're done here. And then once kind of done, I expect us to kind of move on up further to the upside on our daily time frame. Let's take the stochastics off and throw on the divergence indicator. Nothing major being shown here. Last time we saw anything was hidden bullish divergence, and that obviously got us up to our initial target range right up there at the $43,000 to $44,000. So that's good to see. Volume wise, obviously, as we kind of correct down here on the daily time frame, you can see a slight decrease in volume, but it's not anything too major. It's actually reasonably flat as price pushed down, so it's not a massive divergence there. Ultimately though, as kind of price pushes upwards, we can see volumes are decreasing here, so we're definitely not finding significant volumes to surge us up higher, but I do expect us to see some kind of crazy price action just before we actually start to see massive turn to the downside, which I do think is likely to come. So on the daily time frame, looking okay, nothing major. Let's take a look at that weekly, right? So weekly, we kind of looked at this yesterday. We had obviously all the sell the news events in the past here, CME going live, the Coinbase IPO, the futures ETF, Bitcoin spot ETF being the next major event here for BTC. Now, as I said, there are some interesting points when it comes to the price action on the weekly time frame. We can see here the major resistance at the moment is the 702 Fibonacci retracement area. This is an interesting range where Bitcoin usually reacts to the 702 quite nicely. Okay, as you can kind of see on the 702 frequency here, we came down, bounce. This is an area of support and resistance. The 786 is also a really key area, and it's that area that gets us up towards 50k, but this particular range of resistance up here coming in at that $48,000 to $52,000, right? So if we're able to break past that 702 fib scale, this is where I think resistance is likely to be, and we're going to kind of pull back down from here. Okay, now ultimately that sell the news event is going to be mid January. We might even see a little bit of a surge for the first week, but actually it's a nothing burger, and I think ultimately we'll just see a lot of selling pressure starting to mount up, and a lot of market makers basically pushing the price back to the downside, liquidating and causing cascading pain for retail investors who were going long, thinking that we're going to new all-time highs straight away. We need a healthy correction. I think that's pretty obvious here on the chart. After a very significant surge to the upside, we do need to see a bit of a correction to the downside. Now, obviously, as you can kind of see, every time we've been up in the ranges on the stochastics, we've seen a very significant correction to the downside. So I've got a few key areas drawn out here. We have the 36 to 37k, we have 30 to 32k, we then have underneath there 24 to 26k, and underneath that 19.5 to 21,800. These are all key areas on the price chart of the weekly time frame, and areas that we'll have to see how price reacts to, whether or not we can reach the lower side or whether we just stay in the higher side. Lots of different percentages of drops here. From our current existing high, we'd have an 18% drop just to get us down to 36k. We would have a 30% drop to get us down to 30k. We would have a 45% drop to get us down to 24,000. And of course, we'd have to have a 55% drop to get us lower than 20,000. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because if we take a look at all of these major drops that we've had on the Sell the News, Coinbase IPO was at 55.93. The futures ETF was 73.62. The CME going live was 84.12. Now, obviously, in hindsight, a lot of people will say, well, that's just the tops of the bull market, all right? And you can't compare. Well, actually, no one at the time knew that these were the bullish ends of the bullish market, right? They all thought you're going up significantly higher. A lot of retail investors thought as soon as we hit 20k, that's it, we're going to 50. And of course, we saw everyone talking about $100,000 Bitcoin when the Coinbase IPO was going live, right? And then, of course, the futures market, again, it's okay. We're still bullish. We're still talking $150,000 Bitcoin, right? Every single one of these events, no one believed that that was the top. And that's exactly where we are right now. Very few retail investors believe that we're reaching a local top here and we're going to see a correction to the downside. So I kind of spoke about this yesterday. Check that video out if you haven't already done so. But ultimately, a big Sell the News event, in my opinion, is coming. We should be prepared for that. But before we see it, I think we're going to push up a little bit more if we can get past, and big caveat there, we have to get past that 702 at 44,200, we have to get close above there, in my opinion, in order to kind of facilitate that. So if you want to know a little bit more about what I'm talking about with all of these kind of Sell the News events, then why not go ahead and check out this video right here, and you'll be well informed with what is going on when it comes to Sell the News events.